Sometimes I think it would be really cool to work as a park ranger or at a remote fire tower lookout in the middle of the forest. But then I come across missing person cases like this one, and my mind changes so fast. Because this was a woman who had spent the last 13 years of her life working at the same lookout tower. So she knew the area extremely well. But one summer morning in 2006, she failed to check in for her morning weather report. And when one of her coworkers went to go check on her, they found her cabin and tower empty. There was a smear of blood on the stairs and a pot of boiling water on the stove, but she was nowhere to be found. This happened 19 years ago, and no trace of her has ever been found, and that's what scares me the most, just vanishing into thin air, where the only thing left behind is a sinister piece of evidence that something horrible happened. This is the mysterious disappearance of Stephanie Stewart, and it is really disturbing because there are no real answers, so let's talk about it. This is Stephanie Stewart. She was 70 years old when she mysteriously disappeared in 2006. Stephanie was an avid reader and loved the outdoors. Although she was older, she often cycled across Canada, and just the year before she disappeared, she climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I feel like those who looked at her really underestimated how athletic she was simply because she was 70. Stephanie spent her summers working as a seasonal fire tower worker near Hinton, which is a town in the foothills of Alberta, Canada. She had spent the past 13 summers of her life at the same Athabasca Lookout Tower in the Jasper National Park, so every year from April to September, she would work alone at this same lookout tower, and her job was to monitor for potential wildfires. She loved it because she loved being outdoors, and at this lookout tower she was surrounded by wilderness, nothing but rolling hills, lakes, and forests, and minimal people. Since she had been coming back to the same spot for the past 13 years, she knew the area extremely well and knew how to keep herself safe in the wilderness all alone. She usually spent her time at the lookout tending to a large garden, reading, and painting. But on August 26th, 2006, this would all change. Stephanie had a cabin at the base from where she would check in 3 times a day, 7 days a week, as per protocol. The last time anyone heard from her was the night prior, on August 25th, 2006 at 9 p.m. She spoke to a family member on the phone, and after this, she vanished. The next day, Stephanie missed her morning check-in. Every morning, she would radio in a weather report, but this morning, everything at the tower was silent. Her coworkers tried calling her several times, but they never received an answer, and this caused them to worry since this was super unusual for her. So an employee was sent to check on her, and they discovered her cabin empty. But the scariest part is that they found a smear of blood on the stairs and a pot of boiling water on the stove, almost as if she had just stepped out and would be right back. This is when police were called, which prompted an immediate and massive search. The RCMP found a couple of things that worried them. One was obviously the blood, but they also found that her personal belongings, including 2 pillows, her burgundy bed sheets, her brown duvet, and her gold watch were all missing from the scene. Search and rescue, along with tracking dogs and over 100 volunteers, scoured the forest surrounding the tower, but neither Stephanie or her personal belongings were ever found, and this was an extensive search too. Authorities searched on foot, on boat, and even by air, but still, no trace of Stephanie was ever located. At first, RCMP thought that she could have been attacked by a wild animal as they found animal hairs, prints, and scat near the tower. But after examining her cabin and finding the blood and her belongings missing, they ruled her disappearance as suspicious and believed that she could have been murdered. Stephanie is presumed dead and a victim of homicide, but although we don't know what happened to her, there is one theory that locals believe could be true. And I just want to preface this by saying what I'm about to say is all alleged, not confirmed, just what locals who have ties to the case are saying. A person who reportedly has family in the RCMP has stated that they believe Stephanie was killed by a man in the area who had a grudge against her. It's not known what the grudge really was, but there's a rumor that Stephanie complained about this man a few times about the way that he was treating the forest, and so she was targeted by this man to stop the complaints. And since she was alone in this tower, it probably would have been easy to break in without anyone knowing and hurt her. How true this is though, I'm not sure. Stephanie's disappearance led the province to tighten the security measures for the lookout towers and their employees. All signs that had directions to the lookout towers have been removed. There are now locked gates on the roads that block the public from accessing the towers. Staff are now required to check in more frequently and take self-defense classes, as well as carry personal radios with them 24/7. And there have been panic buttons installed in the towers in case of emergency. Stephanie's case is so terrifying to me because it's like she just vanished into thin air, and the only clue left behind is a drop of her blood. It's also so scary to me because she spent 13 years of her life at this tower, and she knew her way around, so it's clear that whatever happened to her was not by her own doing. But it's now been 19 years, and whatever happened to Stephanie that night at that remote tower remains a mystery.